Face-off in there, just outside the blue line as the whistle goes to end the second period. And so at the end of 2 periods of play in this fourth game of the Memorial Cup playoff between Porcupine Combines and Inkerman Rockets, the champions of the Ottawa district. The score, Inkerman 4 and Porcupine again.
Here it is, our shrine to Canada's favorite pastime. Right in the heart of downtown Toronto, the Hockey Hall of Fame. In the midst of all the pomp and glory, if you pay attention and look closely enough, you might find some hidden treasures or lesser-known stories of hockey fame and discover the local heroes who also left their mark on Canada's hockey history. You might come across a display case with an old leather jacket featuring the crest, the Inkerman Rockets, Eastern Canada Memorial Cup semifinalists 1948-49. You could scroll through pictures of the Rockets, a championship team that captured the hearts and imaginations of Canadian junior hockey fans in the mid-1940s and early 50s.
How are you?
Sick in bed with a nurse.
Oh, you wish you were.
Hey, this young fella right here.
How are you doing? Stay there.
Yes, sir. Paul, John Paul. How much you got?
Hey, John. You always been John Paul? Hey, are you afraid?
Hey, Frank boy.
Welcome there.
Hey, good to see you, Frank.
How about this fella here?
Hide back
I
here.
lift too close to him. There you go. Hey, man. Hey, man. Hey, good to see you. Over now.
Pretty good looking folks. Look at over here, though. Yeah, that is. They're a bunch of little damn Oh, yeah.
Best looking line in
They're the
Canada.
skates. They're the skates that Denver had.
Now, Gum darn near wore the most.
I think people got caught up in the amazing statistic that this little town of 100 people with no rink and no league to play in made it all the way to the final 6 in the Memorial Cup one year. That was 1951. And if Belleville hadn't been there, we might have made it a little bit closer to the Memorial Cup. But we were very satisfied to be among the final 6.
The Inkerman Recreation Association has held a reunion to this fine hockey team, the Inkerman Rockets, to commemorate their excellent achievements during their 10-year reign where they dominated junior A hockey.
The world isn't the same as it was then. It isn't possible now for a team to go from 120 people and compete for the Memorial Cup. It's just impossible. And that's a shame.
And I didn't know where Inkerman was. I had to go home and look up on the map to find this little spot somewhere between Cornwall and Ottawa. And I said, that's Inkerman. It's the smallest place I've ever heard of.
We'd heard so much doom and gloom over the war years, and then that came along, and it was just hard to explain the community. The way everybody was just so excited.
I mean, when we played in Ottawa in the playoffs, I don't think there was too many farmers here that stayed here and milked cows at night. They were all in Ottawa.
If you weren't working, you were in the rink. And everybody in town, except the old people and the babies, were there.
And also in the playoffs, if you left late, you would never get to the auditorium. It used to be lined up from Winchester right to Ottawa. And I was only a kid, and all my gang from Montreal came up. They couldn't believe it. We played Friday night, 5,300 people. Played Saturday afternoon, 5,300 people. It was fantastic.
People at that time were really surprised when they saw the Inkerman Rockets. They heard these farm boys were coming in to play the powerful Ottawa St. Pat's, and they didn't think too much of this club. But then when they saw them on the ice, there was a blur of red and white uniforms skating everywhere and throttling the St. Pat's offense and showing great goaltending, good defensive play, and those scrappy little forwards never stopped moving. And it was so impressive. I said, I want to play for that club.
So it was just amazing how a little small community, I know not necessarily they weren't all from Inkerman, but they were close enough that to form a team and to go and to play, for example, the Quebec Citadels with Jean Beliveau, that story's got to be told, you know.
Where do you want me to start? At the beginning or the end?
Wherever you want, sir. You are the legend. We just follow you.
Of course, who was the coach but Lloyd Laporte in both Bantam and Midget, and he was my school teacher in public school there too, in the 5, 6, 7, 8.
And one time he went home and he said, "How would I like to go and see the Ottawa Senators play?" I guess I was young and I jumped up on the couch like, yes, he'd take us to Ottawa.
And Lloyd was excellent. He was a very honest, and he knew the game. He knew what was going on, and there's no question in my mind as what little achievement I've had in hockey, he was the first guy responsible for it.
Lloyd Laporte originally was a school teacher, and it showed when you came in contact with him. He was very polite. He knew where he was going. He never swore. And he seemed like a mild-mannered sort of a person, unlike a lot of hockey people, but he had a great passion for the game, and that obviously rubbed off on his players because he seemed to know exactly where to place a player on a line. And I think at that time, it was a very important factor in the Inkerman success story.
I was born in Collingwood. I lived in Collingwood until I was 8 years old, 7 or 8 years old. Mother passed away, died of cancer, but I couldn't play. I had lost an eye. My brother and I had been building a Indian teepee, or bags. He was ripping it and I was holding the bag, and the scissors slipped and took this eye out. And the fact that they wouldn't let me play hockey made me want to do more than ever. And I used to skip away once in a while and not play hockey, but skate around with them. Oh, that's a long time ago. I taught in Inkerman for 21 years, I guess. We used to get up a little school team and play out on the Nation River. A couple of schools that weren't far apart. They'd make up a team, we would too, and go out there and play on the ice, maybe on a Saturday afternoon.
We used to play a lot of hockey underneath the bridge in the center of town there. So whenever it snowed, we had the bridge over top, and we didn't get too much snow on the ice, so it worked pretty good that way. We used to spend a lot of hours there. Oh, and all the boys from around town there, and used to be fellas come in from out of town too to play once they found out we were playing hockey there, and shinny you'd call it, I guess, at that time.
The players wore battered hand-me-down skates, which usually didn't fit, and passed the puck around with beat-up old sticks.
To buy hockey sticks, I can recall for, I think, 25 cents. We always pretty well, Dad made sure we had a hockey stick at Christmas. And if you broke it, why, you were lucky to get another one. I can remember we used to come home from school and we didn't have enough hockey sticks, and Dad would take an old tree branch and had it in the shape of a hockey stick, and we'd go out in the yard and we'd play hockey there till supper was ready.
Inkerman used to be Bishop's Mills, didn't it?
Yes.
One time? Yeah.
It was Bishop's first. I think it was Bishop and then Smith and then Inkerman or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You were pretty young when that was first taken, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah. Holy mackerel. Look at that.
Well, that one is taken in South Mountain.
Oh, yeah.
We used to get a farmer convinced that he should take us to South Mountain to play a school team up there. And one of them would take us 1 week. The next week we might go to Nation Valley and play in the river. Other times, if we were lucky enough, we got into Winchester. They had a covered rink.
All aboard. Can't get aboard, get a plank.
One thing is there.
Yep. Watch your step there, Whit.
So I got the idea of building a rink in Inkerman, and we built it. Just had little boards the first few years around it.
Little did he know when he called together a small group of young farm boys that they were about to create a legend in local hockey lore.
Yeah, here we go. Here we are.
Yes, we're the band from Inkerman. We're the finest and the fairest in the land.
be out in the store at Inkerman, and people start talking hockey, you know, I talk hockey, and we would wonder why Inkerman didn't have a team in the town league. So we worked on that, and finally they said, if Inkerman wants to put a team in, well and good, we'll put it in. So I was chosen to get the team started. I guess I was more interested in anything else.
He managed to move the team league games to Winchester so that they could play in the comfort of an indoor arena.
1, 2, 3, Rockets!
Winchester had a town league, 4 teams made up, boys right from the town.
When we started, really, we're playing against Winchester. They had a town league down there. We had no junior team to play against. And Lloyd there, he figured we were good enough to win the junior. Finally, we got the junior team. And the first year we went, we beat Winchester out.
We weren't that good, but town league was very poor hockey. I mean, older men and younger boys. The good hockey players went to Chesterville, they went to Iroquois, with the big senior teams.
Only for the Inkerman farmers, there'd have been no Inkerman Rockets. Don't ever forget that. $5 was $5 then. And every farmer in this area paid $5 each to form Inkerman Rockets.
I should tell you is our share of the profits for playing in the Winchester Town League for 1 year, or for the winter, we got $48. It wasn't very much. We had a meeting at Inkerman, and I suggested that somebody would go into Ottawa and buy a set of sweaters. So Nat Timmons went in and bought the sweaters. When he came out, they had a big R on the front here. So they said, what are we going to call them? We got a big R here. Some said this and that, and finally, I guess I said Rockets.
That's when I choke up a little, because finer man never lived. He was like a second father to all of us, and we love him. We would do anything for him, and we did. We did that on the ice at different times when we played so far above our heads and won hockey games, and we won them for that man right there.
I loved hockey. I don't know why. None of the family played it. As far back as I could play. Or none has played it since.
Even from the first team, they had some good, talented players. And it just got better as time went on. They developed into a much more, but there always was an Inkerman flavor. There was always Inkerman players on the team. I don't think they ever had a team without Inkerman boys playing on the team.
When this town league would be finished, we'd play maybe another 2 weeks, or maybe 3, playing the winners of the different leagues.
Lloyd Laporte's house was right beside the school. So on game day, all the Inkerman Rockets came to Lloyd's house. So as young, almost teenagers, we got to meet the Inkerman Rockets just through the fence, and it was great.
Well, our farm was 4 miles from Winchester, and we came to high school here every day with a horse, so we normally had a horse and cutter ready to go. We'd go home from school, do the chores, and take another horse and come to the hockey game. And we stored them, put the horse in the church yard, and just blanket the horse and leave them hitched, and after the game, come out here and drive the horse home.
We kept getting better, and so they kept pushing us out one league after the other because they wanted to go themselves. But we always played off with them. Any team that had a league, we would play off the winners.
I think they got the drive from Lloyd especially. I think what he saw in these boys was the need to do something to prove that the little country boys don't take a back seat to anybody. And they didn't.
So finally, after we beat all the teams in the valley, we were given an invitation to come in and play the Ottawa champions. I knew we weren't near there good, not yet.
This is before my time. I can remember that they went in to play at the Old Auditorium, and I think the University of Ottawa beat them 24-0, just in one game. All the boys out here had never skated in artificial ice, so they just couldn't get used to it.
We didn't go to Ottawa much in those days. And to go to Ottawa, that was really something. Just to go to Ottawa now, let's watch the Inkerman Rockets play.
They won the district again, and we went in and played against Ottawa. And of course, with picking up some of these players, we became a better junior team. And the first year, we got beat out by St. Pat's.
Well, all they did actually by beating us was to make me feel we got to get better. We had to beat them somehow. It was pretty a full-time job for me at that time. I wonder if Perce played now at that time.
I was the youngest on the team and the smallest, and I was playing on the first line with Ralph Hurley and Gordy Crowder, and of course, not being a good skater, it just kept me going to keep up with them, let alone, but I seemed to be a guy in the team that was in the right spot at the right time. I got quite a few goals. And
stick boy, yes. Lloyd's son Wayne and myself, we were stick boys. Yeah. Yes. We really thought we were something to to be right there front and center. We're right in the bench there with all the guys, and you were a part of the team as far as we were concerned. Yeah.
I always remember my brother Denzel, who was on earlier tonight. He's a much better hockey player than I was. But I always said I taught him, and I did.
Yes, my brother played before me. My brother was 5 years older than myself, and yeah.
Because we built a little rink in the yard just up the road here, and before we had the rink over here. And I got Denzel a pair of skates, and he said, "What's the use of getting skates when I don't know how to skate?" And I said, "But I'm going to teach you how to skate."
And then he was in the forces too, And yeah, but he was a good hockey player. But I don't mean anything by it. But they always said I was a little better than he was. But I wouldn't have told him that at any time.
And he turned out to be one hell of a hockey player.
We kept getting better because we kept getting better players. We were getting them all. The boys in Morrisburg or in Cardinal, they had an outstanding player. They'd want to know if they could play with Inkerman. I didn't go looking for them. They come looking for me. They wanted to get on this team because it played more hockey, it was better organized, and we were going farther.
For those first 4 years that I played, we kept pretty well the same players. In fact, we didn't start importing until 1945, 46, Lloyd, when we brought in Bob Ramsbottom and Lowell Craig from Marrickville. And we didn't have to tell them too much because they went to live at Lloyd's place and they were happy there and they were both good hockey players, and the rest of us, we just went along with it.
I remember Lloyd coming up to Marrickville and interviewing Bob Ramsbottom, who was not with us anymore, and myself. Would we come down and play for the Inkerman Rockets?
They come down here, and this was part of their getting paid. They got their room and board, and I think it was $10 a week spending money. This meant bringing them in September and keeping them through till the end of school year in June.
We brought in a couple more boys. We were waiting till the Duncans said they would come. Really, they were the prize to get.
At that time, we played against Inkerman, so the next year we weren't coming to Winchester, so Lloyd wanted us to go up their place, so that's how we come to get taken. And Winchester folded.
With the coming of the Duncans, they were a powerhouse as far as hockey was concerned.
When you're twins, you knew where each other was automatically.
There's a very closeness with these twins. And they were from a family, a grandmother had 5 pairs of twins.
It's instinct that really, whether he was going in that corner or not, you didn't have to go. he was close, he was done. So you didn't even have to look.
And the Duncan twins, they lived at Vernon, so they come to high school here in Winchester. They were pretty well the outsiders. There's another fellow by the name of John LaFortune come in about that time from Emblem, and he was a good player.
In the fall, December 45, I came up to Winchester Rink and started with the Inkerman Rockets.
The best qualities? Well, I would say in our situation, there was an ability to leave home and get along with a number of people that he'd never seen before.
I was playing left wing with the Duncan twins, Edwin and Irwin, for the 2 years. I recall the first game we played. If I recall correctly, we won 9-3, and us guys had scored the 9 goals.
Inkerman was playing in a bigger league than Township or the Town League, a lot better, so they came, and of course that gave us a shunt, just what we needed, and we won the league. Morrisburg, Cardin, and so on.
Well, I recall the 46 series against St. Pat's.
We had a very good team. We beat the Ottawa University Junior City champions the previous year, the Ottawa Mata Guards, and then our third team to meet was the Inkerman Rockets. So I never seen them play until we met them in 1946. But I knew by the newspapers the story for the small town, and I knew where Inkerman was and everything.
We never had big crowds until we went to Ottawa.
The main thing I remember about it, that of all the hockey we played that year or any other year, the game that we played in Ottawa, we played before more people than in Montreal, Halifax, Ottawa, or anywhere.
It was exciting, all right, and of course, and you knew the crowd was there, was that 90% of them were back in the Inkerman Rockets.
Well, we were playing for Ottawa, but I think the crowd was cheering for Inkerman because Inkerman had a great following.
Not only Inkerman, Eastern Ontario was behind these people, and we sure realized that when they got the first 3 goals at the auditorium that night.
It was great times. Oh, I'm telling you, the excitement was it. I can still remember how exciting it all was just to go to the auditorium.
We had a pretty good team, and we beat them badly in Ottawa, 18-5, if I remember correctly.
They came back here on soft ice in the middle of March.
And of course, there were no artificial ice in those days, so we played, and it was mild, and I'm sure they, on purpose, let 2 or 3 inches of water, because I couldn't believe it when we came out here and we said, we can't play on that.
Of course, you go to shoot the puck, you were shooting water, or you were ice and the soft snow and everything, and
I remember we beat them 4-1, and I scored 2 of the goals, but I got splashed with water by Bob Ramsbottom, among others.
Bobby Ramsbottom went to shoot the puck out of our end, and he had missed the puck, and it didn't go very far, and they kept it in our end, and it ended up in our net. We come off the ice, Lloyd says to Bobby Ramsbottom, he says, "Thunder, Bobby, what are you doing out there?"
Lloyd was instrumental in a lot of that. He treated them like men, and they grew up to be men, in my opinion.
So they took some of the water off, and we were lucky to win 4-1.
They were a bigger team and had some guys on there pretty well ready for NHL too.
The real season came. Lloyd said, "You'll come and live at my place." So I wound up there with a guy, Don Thompson, Martin Easter, and myself, and Lowell Craig.
There we are, guys. That's for you.
Was that Lloyd's house?
Yep. How many stayed here when you stayed here, John?
We were 4 of us.
4 of you? 4 of you stayed here? Yeah.
Plus the 3 kids.
Plus the 3 kids, yeah.
Plus 2 was 9 in the house.
9 in the house, yeah.
They looked after us. Hilda done our washing, and
She was agreeable. She enjoyed hockey too. She went to all the games with me, practically all. We got along, and the boys were good. They helped to do the dishes, I remember.
And Mrs. Laporte was
Yes.
handling,
Dishwasher.
food and
Dishwasher, right on.
and the noise.
Yeah. Didn't have too many automatic dishwashers in them days.
TVs weren't very good.
No, the TV was good as either.
Yeah.
They really became almost like one of the family.
a better home we never had. I mean, Lloyd and Hilda were just like father and mother to us boys.
We played so much hockey, and that's what the boys wanted. The more hockey you played, the better we like it. Sometimes we play, I saw at one time play 6 games in 6 nights.
The whole town, I think, came when they played. I'm sure it was, it was just a big crowd of Winchester. We called all of Inkerman was there, and the whole area was supporting them, really.
People who didn't have the ready cash made it their way to find the cash by either selling eggs, chickens, maybe some meat or milk or whatever, to be able to afford to go to the games. Nobody missed for lack of money. Maybe even the neighbors helped them out.
When we got doing well, why, it was nothing to fill the Winchester Arena.
I think when they played in the old arena here, we lined up right out to the street, practically. It was back by Parmalat, where Parmalat was.
They'd come there at 6 o'clock to get in to watch these games. And of course, late in the spring, when the ice wasn't that good, and they wouldn't open the doors until just before game time to try to keep it as cold in there as possible.
I could quote a lady that Hattie Melvin used to take her supper lunch and to get back to get her special spot in the balcony.
There wasn't anything else to do. There was no TV then, and people wanted some entertainment, so they'd come to these hockey games.
Before the game, they would play. And at intermission, they would play the brass band in our arena. And no other arena around had that.
So, of course, anybody that wasn't able to go to the game, if they wanted to know the score, they picked up the telephone and asked the Bell telephone operator, because she always knew what the score was. You called the rink and asked every period or every little while, you would call to see what the score was, because you knew somebody was going to call you and ask you, because they always did.
In hockey season, that's all you talked about. You went for coffee, that's what you talked about. So if there was a game in the evening the next day, the whole game got rehashed at the coffee shop, at the Royal Lunch or Flora's.
It was such a big thing, in our community at that time. Everybody was just excited to, whether you ever played hockey or had any interest. That would be why.
I think Inkerman was the type of hockey team that there was no lazy hockey players. Everybody wanted to play. Nobody ever seemed to get tired. That was the sad part. Sometimes you didn't get on the ice for 5 minutes and somebody got out there, or vice versa.
And then I also read by the journalist about Inkerman skated in the first period, they skated in the second period, they skated in the third period, and they skated after the game. They never quit.
We had strong skating defensemen. There was very little back-checking to do a lot of times, and lots of times if we played like that for the first period, and the second period we played in their end of the rink for most of the game, they were so tired then the third period there was nothing to it. That was the end of the curtains for the other team.
Well, I recently read some articles, I want to say 1947 or something, and Inkerman, of course, came in to play the Junior City Hockey League champions. In this particular year, St. Pat's College won the Junior City Championship, and they played Inkerman.
We beat out St. Pat's, and this was a big letdown to Ottawa. I think the little town with Inkerman, with 100 people in it, would be able to put together a team big enough to beat out an Ottawa team. The surprise to St. Pat's was that they were setting out outside the old auditorium with a bus, ready to leave for Montreal.
It used to be Inkerman. From in here, or from Ottawa, Inkerman. Where's that? That was the term, but I'll tell you, by the time the season was over, I'd say a majority almost of Ottawa people knew where Inkerman was, because it was a bunch of kids that were taking on their best teams and beating them.
I remember one time my mother telling that she and my aunt went to a game at the auditorium. And of course, the Duncan twins, Percy, some of those were not big people. And they played by skill, not by power. And I remember my mother saying that at one point, the opposing team hit one of the Duncan twins over the head with a stick, and he dropped to the ice. And my mother and my aunt were so upset, they started taking heart pills.
It was great. When you had to go to Ottawa and you played the St. Pats and Montreal Junior Canadians, and it was great. It was great.
Then we come up against the Montreal Junior Canadians.
Oh, it was something different, that's for sure. It was, we heard of Montreal Forum, we were never in it before. I think that was the first time we were ever in it.
But anyway, towards the end, it would have been in April, March or April, that Lloyd Laporte called us one day, and he said, we are able to pick up 2 defensemen to go against Montreal. Are you interested? And I said, well, yes, we are, but the exams are this week. Well, he says, you'll be all right about that. I'll help you with that.
First game I recall playing in the Montreal Junior Forum, they beat us 17-2.
So, but at that time, we run right into those Montreal teams, which were semi-professional, actually. Like, they practiced every day. They had the choice of the province and even took some players from Ontario there. So I said we lost the first 2 games, and it was a 2-3 series.
Lloyd's manner, was a big thing. Like, he seemed to know hockey players by just seeing them. And he knew when he was picking up a good player. And of course, everybody wanted to play for Inkerman again.
We had a boy from Prescott playing with us, Donnie Thompson. And Donnie, after he played with us a year, he said, you're looking for players? He said, there's a young player in Prescott. He's only a juvenile. He's not a junior, but he's a real good hockey player.
First of all, my mother died when I was 13, so then I was staying with my sister. So then she got married, so I thought, well, it's time for me to make a move. My dad was working, he was the captain of the ferry boat in Prescott that went over to Augsburg, and I was kind of on my own.
So I went to see Leo. He said, you have to talk to Dad, see if I can leave Prescott and go back. And he said, yes. He said, I've heard of the Inkerman Rockets, and he says, they're a good team, a good organization. And I said, Leo can go.
That's how I started with Inkerman, and I tell you, I really enjoyed my years here in Inkerman. I think it was a starting point.
And he boarded in town with Ace Haynes.
When I stayed with Laura and Ace, that was like home for me. They were so good people, they were great people. This is Laura Haynes. This is where I stayed for 2 years. Percy stayed the first year with me, and the second year, actually, Hall Kirkby stayed, and then he left.
Hall was from Prescott.
Hall was in Prescott.
Yeah, the living room was right in here. Yeah.
We used to play cribs all the time, cribbage. Ace and I would play every day of the game. We'd play up in there all the time. That was the nice 2 years I stayed there. They were lovely people.
Well, no wonder she was my father's sister.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh my God, I'll tell you. I had to grow up in a hurry because I've been on my own since I was 15 years old.
They knew we were going a little farther than they could go at home. We'd have more hockey than they would have at home. Nobody had ever asked them to go any place to play.
Playing with Inkerman, where if I'd have stayed in Prescott, I would have never played with the teams, better teams. We played better teams all the time. As Lloyd used to say, well, that's how you're going to get better, if you play better teams.
And then we played in a senior league up in Kingston against Kingston University, Gananoque, Kempville Royals. And they're being seniors or intermediates, I don't know what they would class them. This meant that when we come up against the better junior clubs, we were prepared for this, and we could skate with them. And we had some fellows on our team, the Duncan twins, John LaFortune and Denzel Crowder and Clifford Baldwin. And
just meant, can't even explain it. Just loved it. Just loved it. Yeah, I played for 4 years. 4 years with the Rockets. And, yeah.
We went to school together here in Inkerman and played midget hockey, Bantam right up through, and Lloyd was our coach then when we were growing up, and then we turned junior and played 4 years with Lloyd and junior.
Ron Timmons, whose father Delmer was Lloyd Laporte's right-hand man. He played for 1 year with the Rockets.
I lived about a mile south of Inkerman on a dairy farm. I played in 47, but I didn't play a lot, and so I decided after that year that I had better stay at home and help with the farm, and we always called them farm boys, eh? We got the third period, the farm boys are getting, could hold their own then because they were all strong, good stamina, eh? And that's, we beat teams that we never should have beaten them. And hey, Denzel? Oh yeah. And of course, my dad was involved right from the start to go, and drove hockey players year after year, so...
He seemed to be a sub-coach to Lloyd that picked things apart on other teams, I always felt, and this certainly meant a lot to us.
When I was there in Loris, and Delmer Timmons used to live just south of Inkerman on that road, and he used to have his team of horses hook onto the car and drag the car out to the main road, and then he'd somehow, I don't know, his daughter, somebody took the horses back, but then he'd pick me up and away we'd go to the friggin' game. But that was constantly because the road was never plowed.
And you may have to take a horse to get to the train station.
But you used to what, charter trains there when we played in a lot of games in Smith Falls?
Smith Falls, yeah. They started at Finch.
Yep.
I remember getting on the train at Inkerman and going to Smith Falls.
Yes. That's a story in itself, isn't it? The Jennings fell off the train up at Merrickville.
East of Merrickville.
Oh, he pretty nearly fell off the bridge. If he'd fallen off that, he'd been dead. He fell off in the snowbank.
So my older brother Gerald and I took turns going to the games with our dad.
We were bringing players now from as far away as Montreal. We didn't go looking for them in Montreal. They came up. There was one lad came up by the name of Bob Lunny.
He was a real card. He always had somebody, a story to tell or something to laugh about, and one thing and another.
I must tell you how he came. I was eating dinner, Hilda and I, Reg and Wayne. The phone rang. I answered it. He said, I'm back at Inkerman Station. I think they call it Inkerman Station. He said, I'm looking for Lloyd Laporte. Well, I said, well, how'd you call him? Well, he said, there's a man here at the station. He gave me her name, so on. He said, I can't get out from the station. I got a suitcase or two. Well, I said, what are you coming for? He said, I'm going to play hockey with you. Well, you haven't made the team yet. No, he said, but I think I can make it. I saw you play in Montreal. I saw you against the Montreal Junior Canadians, and I feel that I can help your team. Well, I said, we'll send somebody back for you. So I don't know who it was, but they went back and they got him. And he brought with them another young man. Two of them came in the house, put plates on the table for them, had the dinner, we could talk, but this other lad, he didn't talk anything about hockey at all. And I said, do you play hockey? He said, no, I don't play hockey. I said, who did you bring out, Bob? Bob said, I don't know who he is. I could tell you 1,000 stories about Bob Lunny.
I kept in touch with some of them. I even stayed at Lloyd's house for 3 years when I played there. And I came from Montreal. And by the way, those stories they said about me tonight are all true.
What kind of a hockey player was he, Persh? You can judge a hockey player.
Well, he was a good goal scorer, and he wasn't a good skater, but he was a real leader, kind of.
In the dressing room?
He gave
up his little speech?
Yep.
He'd pep them up?
Yeah, he'd get up and make a little speech. Come on now, boys.
Yep.
You lose this, we're out. Hey?
I got a lot of stories to tell you about Inkerman. I stayed year round. I played ball there. I got $20 a game pitching ball. I worked at Crowder's Farm. It was just fantastic. I used to go to the Catholic church. I went to the Protestant church and I ended up in the choir, and my father wouldn't talk to me for 5 years.
The guys that come in there, they were good guys. We all got along. We got along really well, really well. We never had any big problems that I can recall. Anyhow, yeah. No, we just seemed to get along with them as long as they could play hockey. That was the main thing.
Every time we went to Cornwall, that old rink down the Water Street in Cornwall, we always came out of there, we always had a big brawl. And the people would come on the ice and they'd spit on us going down because the dressing rooms were down in the alleyway, you know?
We didn't fight much, we didn't mind the rough stuff along the board and stuff, eh? And we always had good results in Cornwall.
The Duncan twins were kind of chippy players, and many times one or the other was in the penalty box in some of the games when they got chippy, so I kept playing a lot of killing penalties. So in that way, I got a lot of ice time sometimes.
Of course, your dad, the Duncan twins, that was the big line. You know, zip, 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 up the ice they went. I can still see them. It was so exciting. It was really neat. And when we went to Ottawa to those games, there'd be just a steady stream from here to Ottawa.
When we went into Ottawa, we had the second largest crowd that ever played in the auditorium.
Yes, going in there was just the same thing as I would say as playing in the NHL. You know, it was a big arena, and you know.
We beat Ottawa, then we went to St. Mary's that year in Halifax.
The highlight in '48 is when we went to Halifax, and quite a train trip down, and that year St. Mary's had a really good team and they beat us pretty badly down there, and then we won a game back in Ottawa.
The first year I played, we went to Halifax. I was just 16, and that was something else.
Of course, down there we were kind of like sightseers, I guess. First time to see the Atlantic Ocean and this type of thing.
Big ship was in at the dock, and say we went down, they took us down there, and that ship, I said that ship is as big as the town of Inkerman. It was the Aquitania. It was the Aquitania, yeah. Yeah, and it was a huge, huge, huge monster ship, and that was really something for a young lad from Inkerman to see something like that, eh? Yeah.
We never rested all that much, and it was something that we all wanted to do. It was nice to have a trip like that, and it was all paid for by the ODHA.
That was something else. To stay in a big hotel. I had never stayed in a big hotel before, and we stayed in the big hotel down there, and
back to Ottawa the next week, and we beat them the first game, but then they beat us 9-6 in that final game. That was a 3 out of 2 series.
It was a learning experience, learning to be a hockey player with a coach that was terrific. He knew how to treat people.
There was a fella who played for the Rockets who lived up the street from me. He was a friend of my brothers and sisters and so on, and older than I was, about 10 years older than I was. His name was Roger Hunter.
I used to watch the Inkerman Rockets when they came in to play the St. Pat's team. And then the next year, I played with the Ottawa Senators, and they were putting together a team. They figured that was going to beat Inkerman. Actually, from the sports writers and everything, we were picked to go, fairly far into the Memorial Cup playdowns.
And so Roger became, like, to me, a hero. His name was in the paper. And he played locally in Ottawa, and then
Inkerman came in and they played off against the Senators for the city championship. And they weren't supposed to beat us, but they did.
He went out to play for the Inkerman Rockets, which I found rather strange. Why wouldn't he just stay here?
Well, I had just come back from the Detroit Red Wings training camp. And I was at the auditorium, and Lloyd was there having a practice. And so he came over and asked me what I was doing. And when I told him I just came back, he said, well, why don't you come and play with Inkerman?
But no, he made his way out to Inkerman, and some of his other teammates at the time, and Billy Lynn and one in particular.
When I first saw them, they were kind of the laughingstock of the place. They were not the greatest players, skaters, or what have you, but they improved suddenly and came up with some great teams.
After 3 years of junior hockey with the Ottawa Senators, and the year
previous to coming there, the Inkerman beat us up with those Duncan twins and Gordy Brown, Leo Boy there. So the next year, Roger Hunter, Gordy Hudson, who was a great hockey player, and myself, we joined Inkerman.
We opened the series against St. Pat's at the auditorium.
So in the 48-49 series, as Inkerman comes to town again, they meet up with St. Pat's. I think it was his third time in 4 seasons, and they beat them 4-1.
Then we played off against Halifax.
Halifax, St. Mary's was representing the East that year. They went through them with no issue at all.
And just as he was about to shoot, it was Power. Here's his pass. The ball with Armstrong. Armstrong shot.
We played against the Montreal Royals.
And this one happened to have, among others, Dickie Moore playing for the Royals, and went on to play National Hockey League and Hockey Hall of Famer.
When they said we're going to play the Inkerman Rocks, I haven't heard about them, so it was new for me when we got to the ice.
Playing in the Montreal Forum, it was like a dream come true. Everybody wanted to, just go there and skate, but to actually go there and play a game of hockey, and it was really something to behold.
Of course, you saw the scores were pretty high against them, but they contended pretty good against us, I must say.
The Montreal Royals beat us out in the Memorial Cup playdowns, and then they went on to win the Memorial Cup.
It was a challenge for us to beat them, but we felt we had the confidence that we could beat them. That's half the battle for an individual when he gets on the ice.
I tried not to be intimidated. As a matter of fact, I think I got in a fight with Dickie Moore. And I was glad to see the referee come in.
Leo Boy, yeah. Yeah, I played on the left wing, so Leo played left side in defense, right side in defense, and I run into him quite often. He was a great player, yeah.
I had a knack of hitting with my hip, and more or less with my shoulder or my hip, but mainly with my hip. And I used to wait till actually the guy was going to shoot off the one leg, and then I would hit that one leg. He'd either collapse or go over me, or anyway, you see. But I was always told that I was too small to play in the National Hockey League, and I think that gave me the incentive to, I'll see, because when I went from Inkerman here, I went to Port Arthur.
He had arms and legs on him that, really powerful. He could skate faster backwards than most people could skate frontwards.
Like Bobby, it make you keep your head up, and Leo was quite an aggressive player. Bobby Lunny, who I met in Montreal here, and he played there. It was wonderful to see,
There was 120 players in NHL, and I'll tell you right now, and God is my judge, Duncan twins and Roger Hunter, Godwin, the boys that we play in NHL today, they only had 120 players. Now they got 1,200 players.
When they told me I was too small to play, that I'd ever play in the league, it kind of gave me incentive that I'm going to show you that I'm not too small, and I stayed for 20 years, so played for 20 years, so.
The years 47, 48, and 48, 49 were the best 2 years of my life. I enjoyed the hockey. I enjoyed my fellow players. I enjoyed Inkerman and Winchester.
I guess I ended up with a wife from here, so from Winchester, and so I have some very fond memories of my years with Inkerman.
Lloyd gave me the chance to play, and that was my highlight, having that opportunity. And if it hadn't been for Lloyd, I'm sure I'd have never played anywhere, not likely.
Well, I was a little young, but I played a couple of years junior in the Ottawa League, and then Lloyd Laporte came to my house one day and said, I would like you to come and play with the Inkerman Rockets. Biggest thrill of my young life.
Because it was Inkerman Rockets. They had a reputation. They were the best junior team in this whole part of Ontario. And to be on their team would give them a chance to even go farther. They may turn pro.
He offered me some money to play, and I said, well, I didn't tell him, but I would have paid him to go there. And that's how I ended up the first year in Inkerman.
The boys seemed to be up for every game we played. The bigger they were, the harder they played.
Playing in Inkerman was a real thrill for us. Modern day junior players would probably laugh at the rinky-dink rink we played in with natural ice and the dark shadows and everything, but we excelled on home ice. We would play intermediate teams and seniors there, and we wouldn't lose. And sometimes the fans would jump over the boards and attack a guy who might have been barreling into us. We would see that occasionally. On the road, it was a little different. They were waiting for us, and they wanted to pummel us into submission when we played in Cornwall and Finch and Alexandria and those places. And that toughened us up.
You lived on a colonial coach and lived out of a friggin' suitcase, kind of thing. So, like, what's to be said? Like, you have to either grow up or shut up and go home, kind of thing.
The memories I have are a lot of funny memories because we used to like taking a lot of bus trips, and we used to take trips down, of course in the playdowns, we took the trip up to South Porcupine.
We knew we were going to play Ottawa St. Pat's or Eastview St. Charles, and we knew we could beat those guys and go on to play in Halifax or South Porcupine.
They changed the playoff system around, and then they put us against the the Porcupine Combines. We played 2 games in Ottawa, and then we played 2 up in Porcupine, and they beat us out.
The guy was drafted by Detroit Red Wings when I was 15 years old or something. And hockey players were bums in the public's mind and view. Then when I talked to all these guys that I met today there, how have they done? Like, what have they done with their lives and that? They've done fantastic.
Another thing that happened to me personally, I had an opportunity in my final year to go with Stratford, which played in the Ontario Hockey Association. That's the top brand of junior hockey. And I spent 2 months there and was playing regularly, but there was something missing, something lacking. The coaching wasn't what Lloyd Laporte was able to give us. And while the league was very good and excellent players, I missed the fun of being a Rocket. So I quit the team. When they reneged on an agreement with me to play at Maple Leaf Gardens, and they reneged on that, I said, that's it, I'm out of here, fellas. And I went back to Inkerman, and I was so glad I did because we had just a wonderful season in 1950-51.
I was playing in St. Catherine Junior A hockey, and I left there to come back to Inkerman. I played the 1 year, I was up there and I could have stayed in the Ontario Junior Hockey League. I came back because I wanted to play hockey with hockey players and friendship and savoir-faire, togetherness, and Inkerman add togetherness.
Anyway, the time we played John Belleville in the Citadels, we had beat out the northern team in Ontario, the Porcupines, and they were supposed to be a good team. They planned on beating Inkerman. They would have no trouble. They had a couple of boys that turned pro.
We knew our destination that year was my last year in junior. Either we won or we didn't. And the players that played in front of me were tremendous.
When he tried to draw DG wouldn't be drawn, and his shot went up and past the net. So it's still 4-1. Inkerman in this second period. In the fourth game, Inkerman leads 2-1.
We weren't the best, but we won. We had more desire, more art than anybody else.
We went from there to Halifax. We went down to play Halifax St. Mary's. Anyway, we won out over Halifax St. Mary's. And then we had to play the Citadels, Quebec. And that's when we met Belleville.
Yes, that was our downfall. Yeah.
Now we wound up that final year in the Colisée, the new building in Quebec, the house that John Belleville built. And I must confess, it was a revelation. The dressing room was 3 times the size of any dressing room we'd been in.
We didn't feel scared, but we were a little in awe before the game started.
Some people would say we might have been intimidated. I think we were anxious to get out there and play Belleville, and all the classy guys that were surrounded them. They really had a remarkable hockey team.
Well, before the game started, all of a sudden we were out in the ice there, and all of a sudden people started carrying stuff out on the ice, carrying this and that, and a television set, and you name it, the kitchen sink and everything come out on the ice there. John Beliveau, who was the big hero down there, eh? And they were presenting all this stuff to John Beliveau before the game started. And we're standing there with our mouths open, looking at this, what's going on here? And then all of a sudden they drive a 1951 Nash convertible out and presented that to him. Junior hockey player. And we really had our mouths open then. See something like that taking place.
They beat us 2 straight. Oh, he was tremendous. I mean, we shouldn't have been in their category. I mean, we had 1 or 2 players maybe that wasn't as good as Beliveau, but as good as their poorest player.
Brian McFarland from Hockey Night in Canada, of course. He played with us for 2 years, eh? And he was playing that year. Anyway, he didn't play the first game in Quebec City. He had sick, eh?
The worst kind of luck befell me in the series with the Quebec Citadels. I got the measles, a little kid's disease, and I was in bed for a week.
But he played the second game, and the next game was in Ottawa. So anyway, Lloyd told him, he said, Brian, he said, I want you to go out there, and he said, I want you to watch Beliveau.
I got out of bed on Saturday morning, and Lloyd took me aside and said, I want you to watch Beliveau in this game today.
Okay, so Brian's line went out. In about 30 seconds or so, Beliveau scored, eh? Of course, Lloyd brought the line off and he lit right into Brian. Brian, he said, I thought I told you to watch Beliveau. Brian just turned to him like this and he said, Lloyd, he said, I did watch Beliveau. And he said, he scored one of the nicest goals I ever seen anyone score. Just like that. Just like that.
And they kidded me. They said, I watched them all right. I watched them score one of the prettiest goals ever, and that was true.
They played 2 games down there. They won both of them. And 1 game in Ottawa, they won that. So they won 3-0-3. We knew we were beat before we started. I mean, they had a choice of players across Canada.
My final year in Inkerman was a wonderful way to wind up a junior career. We had a great season, only to be spoiled by Jean Beliveau and his fellows from Quebec. But to this day, I'm angry that we lost by the scores that we did because Inkerman Rocket teams don't lose by major scores.
Now, you played hockey. Where did you play hockey?
Well, I just played some junior hockey and then in the Ottawa Valley and at Stratford in the OHA and then down at St. Lawrence University, Canton, New York. Best thing I ever did, going to college on a hockey scholarship.
He was in the Memorial Cup with faced off against Beliveau with Inkerman Rockets, right?
Nobody remembers the
Well,
Inkerman
I'm
Rockets.
telling them, I'm just so you'll know what you're talking. I remember them. A guy named Brown played. He was really good.
Right.
You remember that?
Oh, yeah,
I remember
Gordie Brown.
Yeah, Gordie Brown.
So we always expected we were going to win. We didn't always win, but we win more games than we lost. But we had a lot of confidence in everybody that was there.
It was 51-52 the year that I played with them. Played in the auditorium, and we played the Eastview St. Charles. Eastview beat us that year.
St. Charles were a good hockey team too. I'm not taking anything away from them. But I think most people thought, well, it's about time Ottawa won, and maybe Inkerman just isn't as strong as it used to be. But it was a close series, and I think the Breaks won or lost that series. The 52-53 season was a very good season, although we didn't win it. But some of the players I played with were like a guy by the name of Floyd Smith who came from Perth.
I was fortunate to play for the Inkerman Rockets in 1952-53 season, which I believe was the last year they were in business.
He turned out to be pretty good because he played in the NHL.
And I think the last team we played that year was Eastview St. Charles. They beat us out.
It was pretty much the same series as the year before. Both teams were equal or pretty good. And again, they got more goals than we did. It wasn't a matter of being better or worse or anything. Sometimes the puck doesn't go in the net.
A lot of those players were put there by NHL teams to advance up and hopefully play in the NHL. We were just a ragtag group that just came to play every night.
That year in 52-53, there weren't any Inkerman players on the team. It could have made a difference. We didn't have the Duncan twins. We didn't have Crowder and Baldwin. Like nobody had them except Inkerman.
We
finally lost out in 1952 to St. Charles, and it was kind of a relief. I've been in it for 10 years, teaching school, working at Alts. I was kind of glad it was over. But all the more credit to St. Charles. They had a real good team. But I think we really lost with the best team we ever had. But we just didn't have the companionship or the togetherness that we had on the other team. We lost, I think, for that reason.
Well, it was unfortunate after the 52-53 season that the decision was made that the team wouldn't operate anymore. And it's my speculation, there's always finances involved. There were many players, maybe more players at that time, coming from Ottawa to play for Inkerman. The crowds weren't as large as they were before because of the television factor, so on. So I think in that case, that could have been the reason. Lloyd started that team in 1942, so we're into like 11, 12 seasons later. We've had our run, been a good 10, 12 years. We've provided a lot of entertainment for people. We've had success. Why don't we just fold us up when we're on top? And I think that would be justified because all these years later, they're still recognized as this little community team that took on all these big guys and was were successful against them.
Inkerman Rockets!
1942, 1952. The Rockets were a special club. They had a special coach. There was a special feeling among the guys. And I think once you were a Rocket, you were always a Rocket.
There's nothing artificial about this man, and there was nothing artificial about the Inkerman Rockets. They were honest and true, both on the ice and off the ice.
I'd never been anything until I went with Inkerman in school or in hockey, and suddenly I felt like somebody.
You really got to go places, and I was lucky. I played overseas for 2 years after that, in Scotland. And then I played for a team in Edinburgh.
The only time I played in England, we won the whole thing that year. We were playing against Tawny, Thompson, and the Forces, that would be it here.
Being an Inkerman Rocket, and it made us our proudest town we ever saw. And any place we ever went, Inkerman. I remember the Inkerman Rockets. It always felt so good,
I've retired from politics 22 years later, straight 22 years. And I think some of what I saw in the Inkerman Rockets, it made a mark in me as to if you see something that you feel needs to be done, don't look for somebody else. Do it. And that's what they did.
Myself, it made you a better person. You really grew up. I really grew up when I was here.
It made me known, and future in life, I got to be an insurance agent. So I was well known in Embrun, St. Albert, Limoges, so it did help me a lot.
It sort of gave you a step up if you were like, when I quit playing hockey, I was going for jobs, and people that I had interviews with knew of me because I played with the Inkerman Rockets.
But I know one thing, when I left there, I was a hell of a lot better hockey player and a hell of a lot better person.
All of us that played for the Rockets and for Lloyd, it made a lot better men out of all of us guys. We all benefited from it.
Well, we never had beer in the dressing room, did we?
No, we never did.
We just accepted Lloyd as our coach, and I think as I got older, I looked back and said, he was really a remarkable person. I wish I'd understood him better when I played for him or got to know him better. Because later in life, you do tend to look back on people who've influenced your life and you say, I wish I'd told them that when I was with them, He was a great person.
Mr. Laporte, March 5th, 99 he was buried. 99.
That's what I said.
Yep.
I was right.
We're very, very proud of being an Inkerman Rocket, being from Inkerman, and being with our school teacher, Lloyd Laporte.
Well, the first time they came, I was like in awe, you know, because I'd lost track of even if these people were still around, because that seemed so long ago. And we had a reunion of the Junior City Hockey League. That was our theme one year. And these fellas showed up, and here, these were the guys who beat the Junior City Hockey League guys, you know? So I was just sort of in awe of the past, you know what I mean? The history, you know? Here these folks are still around, and they're there. I could talk to them. I could ask them questions. And it was just a little, like, overwhelming to think, here they're at our little hockey luncheon, and they were like gods, like, you know.
Some of those gentlemen over here in the far corner, the Inkerman Rockets.
It's funny, when I was working with Hockey Night in Canada in various cities, I might be in Boston or New York, and to my astonishment, somebody would holler down from high up, "Hey, McFarland, you remember the Inkerman Rockets?" And I would stop and give him a wave wherever he was. And this happened quite often, where they would remind me about my days with Inkerman, and I began to realize a lot of people knew about that team that nobody thought they knew about that team.
Tonight, this is the greatest honor and the greatest thrill of my whole career, being inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Wow. Jean Beliveau, what a champion he was and is. He gets credit for steering me away from pro hockey as a career. I tried to check him once in a junior playoff series and found that to be an impossible task. Right then I figured I'd better explore other career opportunities. I salute my junior coach, Lloyd Laporte, down near Ottawa, coach of the Inkerman Rockets, a remarkable little hockey club.
I paid my boys $5 a week. Near the end, I paid more than that, but not a great deal. The name Inkerman was enough for them.
Oh, his name is Lloyd Laporte, he's the leader of the team. Although we're few in number, we are always on the beam. Oh, Craig and Hurley on defense and Easter on the wing. Armstrong on the other side and Gibbons in between. Oh, the Duncans and the Fortune, they are sure to shine. They get so gall darn many scores, they can't tackle them half the time. Oh,
Harry Bennett in the net, he plays a mighty game. And though they try to score, he stops them just the same.
Yes, we're the band
from Inkerman.
Yeah, the greatest little team in all the land.
To join us, Russell, Baldwin. Face off the England zone. It's knocked out into the center right zone. They're fighting for it right there. A beautiful effort by Ron Russell, who went in all alone with Baldwin. Russell laid the pass right on Baldwin's stick. He shot. The run stopped it and fell behind him and stayed right on the line. One of the defensemen came through and sat on it. It was Donovan, who's being relieved now to hold it out. That was a close save for the combine. But the faceoff comes to score. Here's passed out into the center right zone. And we have a bell coming up to the Inkerman blue line. He comes right in from this side. He gets a shot on goal, and the pass goes out behind the net. George picks it up. He tries to clear. And it's going down the ice. Jack Higgins stops it. Of course, to go too far. They have 1 minute and 30 seconds left to go in this game. Inkerman 4, the Combine, the Porcupine 2. And the Combine is short-handed at the time. Here's Russell at center. He passes over to the corner. The corner's in the Porcupine half side right in front. And it was Russell who missed it right in front of the net. They hold it against the board behind the Porcupine goal. And we'll have a face-off to the right of the Combine net. LeBron has been a very busy man in this third period. Two very good chances for the Rockets. And they were stopped when they were sitting on the doorstep, waiting to bang her home. We have a minute and 15 seconds in this game. The Rockets 4, the Combine 2. A victory for the Rockets means they will go to the Maritime to take on the Maritime champ. Now the puck is cleared down the ice into the Inkerman zone, where it is picked up by Swords behind his own net. He comes out. And the game is over. The Rockets have taken the Porcupine Combine 3 games to 1 in the best of 5 series.
I can see where you could have a lot of space for a good game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, I'm pretty darn sure this was the place we come. I didn't come here that many times. It used to be Saturday afternoon.
Right.
The only time. Well,
yeah.